Namaste. My name is Kathleen Gruby, and I am a recently graduated youth of Lake Nokomis Lutheran. And if you haven't seen me around in a while, that is okay. I honestly haven't been around in a while. Right now I'm in college, but following my graduation from high school last year, I was able to embark on, it was supposed to be a year-long gap year. It only ended up being 8 months because I had to come home early because of COVID. But it's my experience abroad that I am going to share with you today. And just a fair warning before I start, it's going to be impossible in these 15 minutes to truly convey the impact that this experience has had on my life. But I have scoured my journal pages and all of the personal documentation that I kept last year in hopes that I can convey my experience as clearly and as truthfully as I possibly can. If I had to explain my experience in one sentence or phrase, I would say I lived a lifetime in a year. And I chose that sentence because of the incredible amount of lessons I was able to learn in such a short amount of time. And among these lessons, I would say the biggest one was a lesson about humanity. When each of us are born, we are all born into certain communities and are taught to align ourselves with people who share the same beliefs and values with us. Among other things, these communities can be built around race and religion and language and social class, or any similarity in life. And growing up, I, just like everyone, belong to these communities and continue to, that resemble each of these categories. Now I want you to imagine or think of all of the communities to which you belong and identify with. And I want you to imagine that they're gone. And you wake up in a place that you seem to have nothing in common with. In every imaginable way, life is different. From the way you make your bed the way you make your bed in the morning, to the time of the day that you eat your meals, to the language used to communicate. In a way, it's kind of like you're born again because you have to learn everything from scratch. But you're not born as a baby where you have no pre-existing way of life. It's like you're born as a teenager or an adult, where people expect you to live and act in a certain way. In essence, this is what I experienced last year. In the matter of 24 hours, my comfortable life in South Minneapolis transformed to a completely foreign life halfway across the world, where I knew not a single soul or hardly a thing about their way of life. Where I lived in India, they spoke Hindi, and their head gestures were completely different than our regular yes and no. They practiced Hinduism and Jainism and Islam, and the rules where I lived were very traditional and restrictive, especially for what women in their society were and were not allowed to do. On the surface, the community around me was so seemingly different in every imaginable way. And yet, I was taken in as one of their own. The families I stayed with made no distinction between me and their own children. I was not treated as a guest, nor was I treated as a burden. I was treated as family. The community around me welcomed me and gave me every assurance that they would make me comfortable and love me as their neighbor. The differences that I perceived as possible barriers were non-existent to them. The language barrier did not stop the people around me from communicating with me. Either they would be vulnerable and use the broken English to communicate verbally through words, or they would exaggerate their gestures in hopes that I would catch on to what they were saying. The differences in societies did not stop them from introducing me to their way of life and being excruciatingly patient with me when I made endless mistakes regarding how to greet my elders by touching their feet, or mistakes regarding overstepping my boundaries as a woman in their society. The religion difference was hardly a barrier when my family eagerly taught me about their beliefs and invited me to participate in their worship traditions. They would share about their religious practices and ask me to teach them about mine. Through these experiences, it became strikingly clear to me that it is not our differences that make us human. It is our similarities that define us as being humans. No matter where you are in the world, humans have a desire to be loved and accepted and find that community. And that concept is universal. It needs no language to translate. And the people in my community there in India had this unspoken understanding that I was not in my comfortable community at home. I was so far out of my comfort zone. All of my family and neighbors and classmates and all of my comforts and everything that was familiar with me was halfway across the world. And they understood that. And so they stepped in to fill all of those roles as my family and as my neighbor and as my friends. And they ensured that I had all of those comforts to the fullest extent. And the origin of this hospitality shown to me was clear once I understood the word that I began this message with, and that was the word Namaste. You don't need to go to India to be familiar with that word. All you need to do is make it through a yoga or meditation session on YouTube, and you will hear that word as the send-off. And I want to share with you the origin and the meaning of that word because it's a lot more powerful than you might think. The word Namaste is a Sanskrit word with the following meaning. My soul honors your soul. I honor the place within you where the entire universe resides. I honor the light, the love, the beauty, the truth, and the kindness that exists within you because it exists within me also. In sharing these things, there is no distance and no difference between us. We are the same. We are united. We are one. The word Namaste was not just a motto that sounds really nice. It was a message that each of them were living and sharing to the world. That word was spoken hundreds of times a day, and it was lived out every single time, to me and to the people around them. I believe this word implies that we are all human. And to honor the light within another is to honor the humanity within them. It is to understand that every human has a different experience, different beliefs, and different understanding of the world. In fact, the word says that each person possesses the entire universe within them. And that place deserves honor. And because each of us possess the entire universe within us, we are in fact not different at all. We are one. Every person I met honored that light that was within me. They recognized it because it was within them also. Although I looked different and sounded different and on the surface was absolutely different than them, they saw me as an equal, united in our common humanity. And so I ask each one of you, what is your message to the world? In each day, in every interaction, what do you convey through your words and your actions and your attitudes? When Mahatma Gandhi was asked this question, he famously responded, "My life is my message." Through these 5 words, he devoted his life not only to bringing the goodness into the world, but to being that goodness and light in the world. He did not choose to send a message of empty words, but he instead chose to live out his message in his actions throughout his life of activism. What would it look like to make my life my message? I think it would look a lot like the word Namaste. I believe when we honor another person and the entire universe that it resides within them, with all its light and love and kindness, then I believe that I'm seeing another person how I imagine God sees me. Connected, part of another. My eyes are open to all the beauty and talents that exist within another. My heart is open to loving others through their shortcomings. Barriers crumble between me and others. Judgment and prejudice is dissolved. And my heart is open. In the week ahead, I challenge each of you to keep the word Namaste on your heart and to make it your message to the world. Don't define people solely based on the communities to which they reside or the beliefs of which they hold. Although these are undoubtedly important aspects of a person, they are not the only things that define them. Approach people knowing they possess the entire universe within them. And with the universe within them, they also possess all the light and love and beauty and truth and kindness that exist within the universe. And in honoring the light that exists within another, you are honoring the light that exists within yourself and the light that exists within the entire world. Be that light. Namaste.